Here we go. Welcome into the show. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report. Chase Sr. here with you. And as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. It is a beautiful Thursday, December 18th of 2025, and there's so much to talk to as we talk all things Niners, as we always do right here on the program. Here's the 49ers Report rundown here, everything that's coming up on the show for the next hour and change. We're going to do a Niners-Colts preview, the most in-depth preview that you'll find here for this game on YouTube. Will Grandpa Phillip Rivers, at 44 years old, pull off the upset against the Niners? If San Francisco wins, they officially clinch a playoff spot in the NFC bracket, by the way. We're going to get to some Mac Jones trade buzz, and with that, if the Niners were to trade Mac Jones this offseason and the Dolphins were to release Tua Tagovailoa, should the Niners sign Tua as a Kyle Shanahan reclamation project to back up Brock Purdy? And then we'll round out with the mailbag. Get involved by using the hashtag 49ers or by sending in a super chat. Awesome audience so far, 210 people watching live. As you come in here, don't forget to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. You're all the true real ones, because if you're in here already, that means that you have your push notifications on. But I do have a question for everybody. Where are you watching from? Let us know down in the chat, emanating live from Studio I at Chat Sports HQ. But where are you? People rocking and rolling with us from every pocket of America and worldwide. Pink Spade is in Los Angeles. We have Rachel tuned in from Tennessee, Nevada from Niner Mafia, Oregon from Todd, Salt Lake City from Jason Black, Wet Noodle, Spokane, Washington. Big game there tonight between the Seahawks and the Rams in the NFC West. Hamilton City, California from Chua, Dayton, Ohio, and New Jersey also in the building. Continue to let us know where you're rocking and rolling with us from. $5 super chat coming in from Spunky Guy. Spunky, I saw that you gave me a follow on TikTok at Chase_Senior. Just started that TikTok page a couple of weeks ago. Already over 4,000 followers thanks to you, my guy. So thank you for that. $5 super chat. Good day, Chip and Chase and the faithful. Let's do this. Run out the season with 3 wins. Won't be easy, but it will happen. Stay faithful. Love the channel. Salute to you. We appreciate you. And speaking of the final 3 games, and of course the Colts game coming up on Monday night, preview coming your way in just a few moments. Let's get to some Niners news here just off the rip. Greg Papa, legendary voice of the Niners, the radio play-by-play guy, returning to the broadcast booth for the final few games of the regular season. His cancer is in remission. It's going to be great to see Papa on the microphone once again. San Francisco, continued health, wellness, prayers, and strength to you, Greg Papa, and your family. As for the Niners injury report, these players limited today. Linebacker Tatum Bethune with that high ankle sprain. Defensive end Sam Okuwanu, same injury. Yetur Gross-Matos continues to come off of that hamstring ailment. And cornerback Renardo Green. These players not participating in practice today. Unfortunately, wide receiver Ricky Pearsall, his status still up in the air for Monday night's Week 16 matchup. Offensive lineman Spencer Burford banged up last week against Tennessee. San Francisco is very thin at the left guard spot because Ben Barch is out for the year. Defensive lineman Jordan Elliott and linebacker Nick Martin. He is still in concussion protocol. Kyle Shanahan did just meet with the media, and he said that Pearsall, who started the year on a heater, got hurt and then was terrific last week against Tennessee, but then suffered an ankle and a knee injury. Shanahan said that Pearsall could still play in this game, re-aggravated that PCL injury, which kept him out for well over a month, and also hurt his ankle when he got hip drop tackled on the first play from scrimmage. Shanahan also said something wild and fascinating about wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk, that since he tore his ACL, MCL, and meniscus last year in Week 7 against the Kansas City Chiefs in October of 2024, that Aiyuk has, quote, been extremely distant since he got hurt. This continues to be an insane situation. Here's what Shanahan said in full. I didn't get to hang out with Aiyuk much since he tore his ACL in Week 7 against Kansas City. Been trying to get him back to our team since then. Haven't been able to pull that off. So I haven't had the opportunity to get him to be a part of the team. He's been extremely distant since he got hurt. Was hoping it would happen once he got healthy, but it never happened. And of course, the Niners on Saturday placing him on the left team / reserve list, making him ineligible to return this year. He'll be playing elsewhere in 2026. Programming reminder, I heard from so many of you, and I saw all of you typing down in the comment section that you wanted me to go live for this Rams-Seahawks game tonight at Lumen Field in Seattle. We're going live. So catch us then. This is why you subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell. Anytime we push out a video, anytime we do a live show, you will be notified. So I hope to see all of the real ones there tonight. Rams, Seahawks, huge game in the NFC West with a lot of NFC playoff implications. For our mailbag, get involved. Use the hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. You can start getting those questions in right now, and we'll do a mailbag for segment number 3. 280 people hanging out. Continue to hit that thumbs up icon. Like the video. We're up to 51 likes. Let's get that number to 100, and I guarantee you that our audience is going to skyrocket as people get that push notification and they start to pile into the show. I'm ready to get rolling. Producer Chip is ready to get rolling. The Niner gang is ready to go as well, and I can't wait to begin with segment number 1, a Niners-Colts Week 16 preview. We'll begin there. We'll get to so much more, and the official show starts right now. Here we go. Hey there, I'm Chase Sr. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report, and as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. On the docket, Week 16 preview as the Niners travel to Indianapolis to play the Colts on Monday Night Football. San Francisco, 6-point favorites in this game. The line has remained firm all throughout the week. Kickoff set for 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Monday, 5:15 p.m. Pacific, and the over-under at 46.5. Of course, an indoor track at Lucas Oil Field in Indianapolis, so a chance for points to be scored, even though Grandpa Phillip Rivers going to get his second start with Indy. A programming reminder, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for daily coverage of the Niners, but also we go live for every single Niners game right here on the channel. Niners Colts watch party on the 49ers Report. Primetime football, Week 16. Can't wait to see all of you there. And a reminder, too, to hit that bell icon, turn on your notifications. Therefore, anytime we go live, you will get that notification. My initial thoughts on this matchup. I am fascinated to watch Grandpa Phillip Rivers in this game. We'll talk more about him coming up, but I think that him starting again for Indy as they're fighting for their playoff lives adds a fascinating element and storyline to this game, and I'm highly intrigued. If the Niners beat the Colts, they officially clinch a playoff spot. If they lose and the Lions lose against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Niners are still officially playoff bound. This defense, as compared to how they played against Tennessee, has to be better against this Colts team. The offense is going to need to carry because the defense is shorthanded. They're talent bereft. And this offense, for really the rest of the year, as long as the Niners are alive, is going to have to shoulder the load for this football team here in 2025. That's just the reality. And I don't want this to be a trap game for San Francisco, right? This is a huge game for the Niners. They might look at it and say, we're playing Phillip Rivers. We're going to be able to get after the quarterback here. The Colts have lost 4 games in a row, 5 of their last 6. They've been reeling. Easy dub. Not going to be easy. This is a good and quality Colts team. And with the Bears game looming next week, it's kind of in that precarious spot for San Francisco. But I would say that both games are huge, especially the Bears game and this Colts game. And I mentioned the Colts reeling of late. They got off to a terrific start, and they were led by Daniel Jones, really resurrecting his career under head coach Shane Steichen. They begin the year with a 33-8 win over the Dolphins. They beat the Broncos by 1 in Week 2, 29-28. They dust off the Titans 41-20. They did lose against the Rams in a back-and-forth game in Week 4, 27-20. But then they pummel the Raiders 40-6. Hold off the Cardinals at home 31-27. They beat the Chargers, another quality team, 38-24, and took down the Titans 38-14. The Colts were off to one of the best starts that they've had in recent franchise history. Then things started to fall apart for Indy. Daniel Jones came back down to earth. He threw 4 picks in a 27-20 loss against the Steelers on the road. They did beat the Falcons 31-25 in overtime overseas, and then 4 straight L's for Indianapolis. 23-20 loss on the road against the Chiefs when Kansas City was desperate at that point. 20-16 close loss against the Texans. They got blown out 36-19 against the Jags. That's when Daniel Jones popped his Achilles after he had that fracture in his leg. And then last week, they played pretty well. They hung tough on the road, hostile environment, but then lost on a last-second field goal, 18-16 to Seattle. And then Phillip Rivers after that field goal did get intercepted off a deflected pass. And let's spend more time talking about Phillip Rivers here. The numbers last week weren't great, and he's not going to wow you with his athleticism and running around. He's never been a great athlete. He's never had a bazooka for an arm. What's going to stand out about Phillip Rivers, how cerebral he is, how high of a football IQ he has, the intelligence that he has to point out defensive tendencies, pre-snap and post-snap as a play develops. There's a reason he's Hall of Fame eligible. There's a reason I think he'll go into Canton as a Hall of Famer, one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the league. Now, I think he's overweight and obviously doesn't have the arm strength that he did have when he was playing, and he's never been mobile, so now he's even slower. But if you're not careful, I think that Phillip Rivers, with that gunslinger mentality, with the high football IQ, how smart he is as a quarterback, can still pick you apart. And I mentioned earlier how intriguing and fascinating of a story this is. Prior to last week, he had not played since 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, 2025 is almost wrapping up. Since his retirement, a playoff loss to the Buffalo Bills when he was the starter for Indianapolis and actually put up solid numbers. He's been coaching high school football since then. His son, one of the top quarterback recruits in the country. He was Hall of Fame eligible this year. By playing, it now gets bumped back. What's also nutty, he's a grandfather. How many grandfathers are playing at the NFL level? And he's older currently than his current head coach in Shane Steichen and his offensive coordinator in Jim Bob Cooter. With that, I want to see where you're at here. Are you worried? Are you confident? Who you got in this football game? Type SF for the Niners, IND for Indianapolis. Get those predictions in. When I scout this Colts team, Rivers, smart as I mentioned, but cannot move. Jonathan Taylor, the running back, is a player who Phillip can lean on. Taylor got off to a terrific start. Since Daniel Jones has been hurt, and that was even when Jones was playing with that fractured leg, Taylor's numbers have slid a little bit. Hasn't been as productive. But really the first half of the year, you were talking about Jonathan Taylor as an MVP candidate and a potential player who could win Offensive Player of the Year. That's waned a bit because he hasn't had that force in the backfield with him. This Colts team at wide receiver and at tight end has elite receiving talent. The rookie tight end, Tyler Warren, one of my favorite players in the draft last year. Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, a great 1-2 punch at the wide receiver spot. So this secondary and this defense as a whole will be tested. Shane Steichen. Some Colts fans might say he's on the hot seat. I think that's ridiculous. He hasn't had good quarterback play, and he's maximized a Daniel Jones, and now he's trying to make it work with Phillip Rivers. He's a great play caller, a great play designer, and you look back to what he did with Jalen Hurts in 2022 when Hurts was the MVP runner-up. That was by far the best year that Hurts has had in his career. It's because Shane Steichen was calling and designing the offense. This Colts team up front and collectively as a defense can also really get after the quarterback. They are 10th in the NFL with 34 sacks as a team. As for some Niners injury news here, these players all questionable. Of note, I'm recording this show on Thursday, this game on Monday night. Wide receiver Ricky Pearsall, linebacker Tatum Bethune, defensive tackle Jordan Elliott, linebacker Nick Martin, Sam Okuwana, the defensive end who can slide inside and play defensive tackle, Spencer Burford, the offensive lineman, and Yetur Gross-Matos at defensive end. All these players, as of right now, questionable. On Saturday, the Niners will release another injury report that'll give us a clearer picture as to what we can expect for some of these players who might go and might not go. Some injury news for Indy here. And this was breaking news on this Thursday, December 18th, that the Colts are opening up the 21-day practice window for quarterback Anthony Richardson just to get him on the field. Coach Shane Steichen said he still has some vision limitations because he got hit in the face with a football and I believe broke his orbital bone. So not fully and 100% clear, but small progress for him to practice. Of course, this is going to be a storyline as well. The Niners going up against a great former Niner who's still getting the job done and still playing at a Pro Bowl caliber level, DeForest Buckner, who should have never played for another team outside of San Francisco. He was placed on injured reserve with a neck injury, did not play last week, has missed the last 4 games. He will practice on this Thursday, and the arrow is pointing up for him to play in this game against his former team. Causes so much disruption from that defensive tackle spot, and the Niners have never been able to replace him. Coming up next here on the show, we're only getting started with our preview. My keys to the game, top matchups to watch, what the Niners must do to beat the Indianapolis Colts. That's all coming up just around the corner. Don't you dare go anywhere. But in the meantime, let's get to our sponsor. Today's San Francisco 49ers Report is sponsored by our friends at PrizePicks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app in the game. And right now, when you play your first $5 lineup, you get $50 in lineups back if you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Join the millions of users and sign up today. It's a holiday season, the best time of year for sports, bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which game to watch, there is one place where it feels good to be right. That place is PrizePicks. New feature alert. PrizePicks now has early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out of those winnings before the game even finishes. Is your fantasy season already over? Your team might be cooked, but with PrizePicks, you don't have to wait until next year's draft. PrizePicks lets you play fantasy football every week. Pick your favorite players and win when they hit their projections every week. No draft required. 3-pick power play for Monday night. Christian McCaffrey more on the half rushing or receiving touchdown. George Kittle, he's been so hot of late, more than 61.5 receiving yards. And then Phillip Rivers more than 159.5 passing yards. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, to the back half of our preview here. Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. Coming up on the show, I'm going to give you my keys to the game for this Niners-Colts matchup on Monday night, what the Niners must do to win, some of the top matchups to watch, and my prediction. And let's begin by setting the table, setting the foundation, by taking a look at how this Colts team has fared on both sides of the football here in 2025. On offense, look at these numbers despite Daniel Jones having that broken bone in his leg and then tearing his Achilles. With this team having lost 4 games in a row and 5 of their last 6, they've still been a top 10 overall offense, and they're still fighting for their playoff lives on the outside looking in of the AFC wildcard hunt. Number 6 in points per game with 28, number 8 in yards per game, 7th in yards per play, 9th on third down, 6th in the red zone. On defense, Gus Bradley used to be their DC. Now it's Lou Anarumo, as Gus Bradley is the assistant head coach of the defense. And on defense for Indy, they fared pretty well this year in a couple of categories, especially getting after the quarterback. And we'll touch more on that coming up here in just a moment. They are 12th in points per game, 22nd in yards per game, 14th in yards per play, 24th on third downs, but number 9 inside the red zone. As for the Niners offense, with what they've been able to do over the last few weeks, look at where they've risen to in some of these offensive categories. The Niners now 11th in the NFL in points per game, 10th in yards per game, 16th in yards per play. They've scored more of late, but of course, the explosives have gone down. Number 2 in the NFL on third down conversion rate and 9th inside the red area. On defense, it's crazy how Robert Saleh's defense is 11th in the NFL in points per game, 18th in yards per game, 22nd in yards per play, 15th in third down conversion percentage, and 13th inside the red zone. With that, we segue to my keys to the game and top matchups to watch. This is a big storyline going into this game. Could the Niners really lose to 44-year-old Phillip Rivers? It sounds crazy, but if the Niners mess around and don't play well, they could get upset in this game as 6-point favorites. And here's how. Look, the Niners gave up 6.7 yards per carry to the Tennessee Titans last week. If the Niners' run defense fares like they did against Tennessee, against Indy, to Jonathan Taylor, could be a long night for this Niners team. And it allows Indianapolis to control the clock, eat up clock, and keep that red-hot Niners offense on the sideline. This defense has to be sharp. And what I saw against Tennessee, the Niners made things too easy for one of the worst offensive units in the NFL. They gave up explosive plays. They had some coverage miscommunications and coverage lapses and breakdowns. If the defense is not sharp, Phillip Rivers is smart enough pre-snap and post-snap to burn you. So San Francisco has to be on their P's and Q's, and they have to play a tight-lipped ball game here where they don't make a bunch of dumb mistakes. And like Tennessee, where Cam Ward threw them the football, but they couldn't convert, if Phillip Rivers does that, you have to be able to capitalize, especially on the road, against a quality opponent. Number two, speaking of, part of what we said with point number one, this Niners run defense must come to play. And of late, they've been one of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL. Kyle Shanahan was asked about that on Thursday and said, yeah, it's not where we want it to be, and it hasn't been good enough, and it's kind of been a problem here for a little while. The Titans offense against the Niners averaged 6.2 yards per play for the ball game. The Niners are lucky that their offense scored 5 times on their first 5 drives. Otherwise, they could have lost to Tennessee. That game got a little bit hairy at the end. Here's the big one here. The Tennessee Titans averaging nearly 7 yards per carry. Niners did not generate a turnover after they had forced 7 in the previous 3 games. And look, the Niners have won 4 games in a row because they're playing pretty good football, but on defense, they can't show the concerning signs that we saw displayed against Tennessee, against Indy here. Jonathan Taylor having a terrific year. He's a top 3 back in football, right up there with Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, all-purpose production, of course, playing at a top 5 level as well. Jonathan Taylor this year, more than 1,400 rushing yards, 5.3 yards per carry. And look at that number. 16 touchdowns on the ground with 3 games left. Great vision, great physicality, home run threat. Niners have to bring their A game with that rush defense. Number 3, this efficient Niners offense must carry. And look, going into the year, I had said time and time again ad nauseum, this defense is going to be young. This defense has a new defensive coordinator. They're going to make mistakes. You're going to have to live with some of the blemishes and bruises. By the end of the year, the defense might be in a good spot. But this offense, experienced, highly paid, a lot of marquee players, is going to have to carry this football team. Well, when you're without Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, you're going to struggle from time to time, especially if you don't generate turnovers, which is why this offense has to continue to click. And this is the formula for the Niners to make a deep playoff run. For their offense to hover around 30 points per game. I said this a month ago after that Rams game. And for the defense to just be good enough. Give up all the yards that you want. Force the opposition into field goals. Don't let them score touchdowns. And this efficient offense has to be led by the efficient Brock Purdy that we saw on Sunday against Tennessee. 23 of 30, 295 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, a quarterback rating of 140.3. The biggest thing with how Purdy played against Tennessee, you might say, Chase, the Titans stink, and they do stink. But eye test-wise, Purdy passed it because he looked the healthiest that he's looked all year, and he was so dynamic with his feet and his legs. I want to see that continue, especially behind this shaky offensive line, which brings me to this. That's what you call a great transition and segue in this business, ladies and gentlemen. The Colts can really, really get after the quarterback. Their defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, one of the most respected defensive coordinators in the sport, and they have had top 10 sack production coming from everywhere on this defense. Leatu Latu is leading the team with 6.5 sacks. DeForest Buckner is coming off of IR, still has 4 sacks. Kwity Paye has 4 sacks. Neville Gallimore has 3.5. Tyquan Lewis has 3. And then you look down this list, you see sacks coming from defensive ends, defensive tackles, safeties, linebackers, corners. I mean, Kenny Moore has a sack and a half. Mekhi Blackman has a sack. Cam Bynum, the safety, getting in on the party. They are getting sack production from all across that defense. You can't sleep on this defense. And I actually like how this game is stacking up for the Niners, because this is going to be a really good litmus test for this team in trying to get ready for the playoffs, ready for the Bears next week, considering the Colts' strengths of running the football just like Chicago. But also, the Niners have not played a winning team, and the Colts are still a winning team since that loss to the Los Angeles Rams. Key to the game number 5, do not look ahead to the Chicago Bears. This cannot be a trap game for San Francisco. This is a monster matchup for the Niners here this week, next week, and also the week after that. You have to take advantage of the opportunity here. And with how closely contested everything is inside the NFC, there is not a lot of wiggle room to drop a couple of games here, especially if the Niners want to control their own fate and still having an opportunity to maybe get the number 1 seed or win the NFC West. I'm recording this before the Seahawks-Rams game on Thursday night. And so you look ahead to that big Bears game. It's one that human nature can come into play where it's easy to look ahead to this. Sunday Night Football against Chicago. Chicago going into Week 16, the number 2 seed. The Niners, 2.5-point favorites, over under 51. Chicago, one of the cooler stories across the NFL this year. This Colts team cannot be taken lightly. They are legitimate despite losing 4 games in a row. So predict the score. Niners on the road against the Colts. Monday Night Football. Robert Saleh against Grandpa P. I'm going with the Niners to win this one. I don't think they get to 30, but I think the offense gets to 25. The defense is just good enough. They intercept Phillip Rivers for a late pick to put this game on ice, and the Niners win their 5th game in a row. And of course, if the Niners do win the game, they clinch a playoff spot. Segment number 3 will be our mailbag. Segment number 2 is coming up, but get your questions in right now. Mondo Lestraka, I see in the building. Black Mask, going with the Niners, 30-17. Spunky Guy in the building. Mike Honcho likes the Niners as well. Muhammad, anybody coming back from injury? Just gave you that injury report there during our Niners-Colts preview. The biggest injury storyline, the availability of Ricky Pearsall. We'll see what happens with him. All right, hashtag 49ers, send in a super chat. That's how you get involved with our mailbag. We're going to move forward to segment number 2 here. Mac Jones trade buzz starting to gain some steam. And if the Niners do trade away Mac Jones, should they sign Tua Tagovailoa? Pink Spade, Miss Chipper. He's right here.
Pink Spade, hold on.
Let's go.
Coming, Pink Spade. Yeah, you guys haven't seen me yet today.
Pink Spade. Chipper's here. Got 350 people watching. Continue to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. He's right here. Chips on top of me.
Whoa.
Bonk. Whoa. Pause. Use the hashtag 49ers, send in a super chat for our mailbag. And we're about to move forward to segment numero dos.
Let's go.
By the way, I'm going live tonight. Rams Seahawks watch party right here on the show. I better see all of you there. Better see all of you there. If you're going to be there, type me. Type me. All right, segment number 2 coming up. Let's go. Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. Chase Sr. here with you. Thank you so much for watching today's show and your continued support of the channel. So many talented content creators out there who cover the Niners here on YouTube. So anytime you devote your time to us here on this show, I greatly appreciate that. Coming up, will the Niners trade Mac Jones this offseason? New report from ESPN and some more thoughts on this topic because it's really starting to garner a lot of steam. And if the Niners do trade Mac Jones, should San Francisco sign the recently benched Tua Tagovailoa to be the new reclamation project for head coach Kyle Shanahan? Naturally, let's start here and pop up today's poll question. This will also be the pinned comment of today's show. So scroll on down and let your voices be heard. Treat it like a sports talk radio call-in line. What round pick would you want if the Niners traded Mac Jones? Second round pick, first round pick. Share your thoughts with me. This is your opportunity to be the Niners general manager. And let's begin by talking about Mac Jones here. I'm telling you right now, ladies and gentlemen, the Mac Jones trade buzz and rumors will be a major story this upcoming offseason. Mac proved that he can be a legitimate starter in this league with what he did in the 8 starts under Kyle Shanahan with the Niners this year in helping to keep this team afloat, keep their playoff hopes alive, and keep them in the thick of the race in the NFC. Mac Jones resurrected and revived his career with how well he played this season for San Francisco. And it was really a joy to watch him. And so when you think about the player in Mac and the trade value that he might have, we saw first-round pick talent this year. We saw why the Patriots took him in that first round coming out of Alabama, where he put together one of the best seasons in recent memory for any college football quarterback en route to winning a national championship under Nick Saban. And his stock had clearly plummeted with New England and with Jacksonville. New England sent him away. They didn't want him. And then the Jags signed C.J. Beathard to be the backup over Mac Jones. We've also seen why Kyle Shanahan really liked Mac Jones in the pre-draft process going into the 2021 draft, where, of course, we know what happened. The Niners ended up drafting Trey Lance over Mac Jones because he's been a great scheme fit for Shanahan this year. But you think about what happened in New England, what happened with Jacksonville. At one point, after Mac Jones was a Pro Bowler as a rookie, Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator for Ohio State, former defensive head coach for the Detroit Lions, former defensive coordinator for the New England Patriots, was Mac Jones's offensive coordinator. This is when Bill Belichick was lost without Tom Brady and starting to lose his marbles before dating Jordan Hudson. Then he goes to Jacksonville, gets traded there, and it was a dead duck regime. With Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke, he steps in for Trevor Lawrence, and he didn't play well for the Jags either. But then he pairs up with Kyle Shanahan, and he looked like a legitimate starting quarterback in this league. Strong arm, tough, can take hits back there, big-bodied. And some people might say, he doesn't have a strong arm. He didn't throw the deep ball. His number one wide receiver when he was playing was Kendrick Bourne. Kendrick Bourne is not a burner. Mac Jones found success and played really good football without George Kittle for most of his starting stint and without a legitimate speed option at the wide receiver spot with an offensive line that is just average. I also look at Mac Jones and say, with how he's played, he's proved that he can be a franchise quarterback, with how he carries himself, and how he's kind of rehabbed his image, how coaches think about him, how his teammates think about him, and the moxie and swagger that he has, that a team would like to bring him in from a personality standpoint. And I think his accuracy is a huge thing too. With Kyle Shanahan, you need to be accurate. That's why Trey Lance never worked. You need to get the ball out on time, early, in rhythm, to your playmakers, because so much of this offense is predicated on delivering the ball accurately to playmakers so that they can pick up yak. Mac Jones under Shanahan this year, 5-3 win-loss record, completed nearly 70% of his passes, career high. His yards per attempt at 7.4, a career high, again with no speed option. Threw for 2,100 yards in 8 starts. He was top 10 in passing yards during his starts. 13 touchdowns, 6 picks, some of those picks not on him, and a quarterback rating of 97.4. In furthering this conversation, if the Niners were to trade Mac Jones, it comes down to 2 thought processes. Will the Niners value draft compensation in a Mac Jones trade, or will they err on the side of quarterback security because of him being affordable and such a high-level backup behind Brock Purdy and being under contract for 2026. Mac Jones helped to save the Niners season, as I had mentioned. But you think about this Niners team moving forward. If you trade away Mac Jones and you don't have a legitimate backup, you run the risk of having a disastrous 2026 campaign. Because Brock Purdy does have an injury history. Hurt his elbow in 2022, played all of 2023, was banged up in 2024, banged up in 2025. And quarterback security is huge. The Niners had one of the best quarterback situations in the league this year because they had Brock Purdy and Mac Jones. Can you imagine if the Niners this year were in the situation that they had last year, when a Joshua Dobbs or a Brandon Allen would have to start 8 games? The Niners legitimately, with those players, may have won 2 games max. With Mac Jones, they won 5. As a team, they have 10 wins on the year. Just a big-time big balls performance and season from Mac. There's also this. If you're the Niners and your general manager, John Lynch, and Kyle Shanahan, you didn't make a big move at the NFL trade deadline because you wanted to keep your picks to continue to build for the future. If you get offered, let's say, a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick for Mac Jones, how enticing is that for the Niners? They might say, man, we can bring in a quarterback, and Kyle Shanahan can get that quarterback on track and maximize him like a Sam Darnold, like a Mac Jones. Obviously, it's risky trading away Mac, but what if we get some great draft compensation, a second and a fourth, to continue to build this team for the future years? It's enticing if you're San Francisco. There's also this. When talking about a Mac Jones trade this offseason, this is what everybody has to consider. And it's something that we have to monitor in the lead up to the NFL draft. What could drive the asking price up for Mac Jones comes down to which quarterbacks are going to declare for the NFL draft and which quarterbacks are going to go back to school. Will the likes of Dante Moore and Ty Simpson declare, or will they return to Oregon and Alabama? We've already seen Lenora Sellers commit back to South Carolina. Lenora Sellers was going to be a first-round pick. That takes a high-level quarterback with limitless potential off the draft board. And if that continues to happen, the quarterback class becomes thinner, thus driving up the asking price for quarterback-needy teams to make a move for Mac Jones, and they might try to really entice the Niners with an offer that San Francisco can't turn down. That is what you have to think about as this offseason gets underway here in a few months. And hopefully it's later compared to sooner for San Francisco, because we're hoping for a playoff run. Now, here's what ESPN had to say on Mac Jones. Dan Graziano, NFL Insider, with this. Mac Jones is under contract with the Niners for next year at $2.8 million. But the way he played in relief of Brock Purdy this year has people wondering what it would take to trade for him and presumably pay him more to come in and compete for a starting role. There are plenty of teams with unsettled 2026 quarterback situations, Colts, Steelers, that could look to a 27-year-old former first-round pick who has been through the Kyle Shanahan career rehab program as part of their potential solution. So Graziano mentioned the Colts and the Steelers. Let me throw some additional teams out there on top of the Indianapolis Colts. I'm going to include the Steelers, of course, the Minnesota Vikings, the Miami Dolphins. If they move off of Tua, they've already benched him. The New York Jets don't have a quarterback, and I think it's inevitable that the Arizona Cardinals move off of Kyler Murray. Those are teams who could come calling for Mac Jones. Before we continue to push forward on today's show, hey, faithful, I'm talking to all of you. Yeah, you. Did I get your attention? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're bringing you elite Niners coverage every single day year-round. So lock us in and join the movement today. Coming up here in just a moment, topic number 2. Should the Niners sign Tua Tagovailoa as a backup if they trade Mac Jones and Tua is released? We'll get to that here in a moment, but how about this? Thanks to our guy Arnold, who we've officially brought on full-time. He's changing so much of what we do here at Chat Sports in a great way, and you're going to continue to see new show elements on the program here, visually, audibly, but also with some of our gear. We now have a Shopify store. So you can get a 49ers Report embroidered shirt if you go to chatsports.com/49ers Report shirt. That is chatsports.com/49ers Report shirt. It's embroidered with the logo if you want to rep that and rep the Niners. It's also extremely affordable. That link is in the chat right now, and it's attached to the pinned comment. of today's show. Get your merchandise. It also goes a long way in supporting everything that we do. And if the CEO and the COO are seeing that people are buying these shirts, we'll continue to pump out a lot of merchandise. All right, to the back half of this segment here. If the 49ers trade Mac Jones this offseason and Tua Tagovailoa, after he got benched by the Dolphins, is released, should the Niners sign him as the next reclamation project in Kyle Shanahan's rehab program? After a bad loss against the Steelers, Mike McDaniel, after Tua had thrown 20 touchdowns and 15 picks up until this point this year, benched Tua, he's going with Quinn Ewers. I think this all but wraps up Tua's time with the Miami Dolphins. Now, it's tricky for the Dolphins because of the money at play. There is so much money left on that deal from the contract extension that he signed recently. And in 2026, just in 2026, Tua has a dead cap hit of $56.4 million. But I think the Dolphins are going to cut bait because there's no sense in keeping him around as the backup quarterback. It would be a distraction. Usher in a new era of Dolphins football, and it seems like Mike McDaniel can't take it any longer. Assuming the Dolphins let go of Tua, should the Niners bring in Tua as a backup? It's a fascinating conversation to have. My thoughts on Tua Tagovailoa, I do think that he could be a scheme fit for Kyle Shanahan's offense. Mac Jones played at Alabama under Nick Saban. Tua Tagovailoa played at Alabama under Nick Saban. And Kyle Shanahan loves quarterbacks who can play point guard and distribute the football from the quarterback position. Tua has shown that he can do that at a high level. He has also, in his career, been a high completion percentage guy. Kyle Shanahan will go insane if his quarterback can't complete passes. This is why he got rid of Trey Lance. Tua, to his credit, has had good production for stretches. He is awful in the cold, but when you play in the Bay Area, oftentimes you don't have to deal with cold temperatures. And in the NFC West, the only place you have to go with the cold climate, Seattle. It is enticing to think about Tua as a Shanahan reclamation project. But I will say, I don't think I would go this route because the health stuff scares me. I'd rather take a chance on another player as a rehab project for Kyle Shanahan this offseason if they were to trade away Mac Jones. I've just never really been a Tua guy. These were my thoughts at Alabama. Wasn't that mobile, not that big, doesn't have a strong arm. And when you're that limited, you have to at least make really good decisions with the ball. Tua now is not doing that. 20 touchdowns, 15 picks. He's had all these concussions, and I worry that another concussion would obviously put him in a precarious spot from a health standpoint. And I just don't see Tua coming to the Niners and being able to find success. I know that he played under Mike McDaniel, and obviously Mike McDaniel's a Kyle Shanahan protege. I just think there are better options out there. There's also this. Shanahan has never coached a left-handed quarterback. It is different with where you want to go with the ball, the spin of the ball for receivers. It's completely different. The ball tails a different direction, and so you'd have to make alterations there. Shanahan has always had right-handed quarterbacks. It would, though, be a hell of a story watching Shanahan with Tua if he were to get him right. Of course, it would come down to Tua getting released by Miami, as I said, and the Niners, if they make this move, would have to sign him for pennies. We're talking about a very short-term deal worth very little money, like the one that Mac Jones signed to get his career on track when he sacrificed financially. This year, Tua is still accurate, really wasn't making plays downfield. Of course, not having Tyreek Hill hurt him a little bit in that regard. 2,600 yards through the air, 20 touchdowns, 15 picks. Just not going to cut it, and a quarterback rating of 88.5. So who would you rather have as Brock Purdy's backup? Type M for Mac Jones, T for Tua Tagovailoa. We want to hear from the Niner gang right now. $5 super chat coming in from VC Nick. Mac Jones to the Vikings for a 1 this year. Then he hits free agency and will go to LA to replace Stafford, who will be retiring. We'll have a legitimate QB2 with Curtis Rourke. Some people are very high on Curtis Rourke. And I know Shanahan really liked him in the pre-draft, and a lot of people pegged him as a potential option for San Francisco in the pre-draft. because he can layer throws, anticipates pretty well, big-bodied quarterback who is accurate and can get rid of the ball on time, accurately, and in rhythm to his playmakers. So we'll certainly see. VC Nick on top of that segment that we just did. It's a fascinating conversation. No doubt about it. Spunky guy, heck no. No one wants Tua. Too many concussions. I get it. I'm worried about that as well.
For sure.
How we doing with our mailbag there, Chip?
Think we're looking good. Let me
Okay.
double check here. Yeah, got some good questions from the people.
Awesome.
So I think we are ready to rip this mailbag. Last chance to get involved. Your chance to get on the show, baby. Use the hashtag Niners in your comments. Send in a super chat. If you ask a question in a super chat, we'll answer that at the start of the show. Just like Spunky Guy, just like VC Nick. Otherwise, it's up to me who I pick.
Let's go. Chip's running the show. Chip is running the show. All right, mailbag coming up. We'll round out with that. And then I'm going live later. Rams Seahawks, Thursday night football. Game is at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. I'll probably go live around 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Hope to see all of you there. Black Mask. Getting in a question. Black Mask. Always poking the bear. I love it. Last call. Hashtag 49ers. Send in a super chat. Hashtag 49ers. Send in a super chat. We'll start answering your questions here in a moment. Matthew Judon unclaimed, so he can sign with any team. That's some new news. All right, here we go. Mailbag. It's mailbag time here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. Hope you're all having a fantastic weekend by the time that you watch this video. Niners taking on the Indianapolis Colts on Monday Night Football. Coming up on today's show, taking questions from our loyal subscribers and all of the real ones who continue to support and watch this program as we talk all things Niners every single day right here on the show. And let's begin here. I'm so close to 184,000 subscribers. We're 196 people away from getting to another milestone marker. So if you want informative, insightful, thought-provoking, entertaining, nonstop Niners coverage, which comes your way every single day you're on, where you have a voice, as evidenced by this mailbag, lock us in and hit that subscribe button right now. VC Nick gets us started, off and running with this $5 super chat. Mac Jones to the Minnesota Vikings for 1 year. Then he hits free agency and will go to L.A. to replace Matthew Stafford, who will be retiring. We'll have a legit quarterback too with Curtis Rourke. So Mac Jones teaming up with Sean McVay, considering what Mac Jones did with Kyle Shanahan this year, 5-3 record, completed nearly 70% of his passes, a career high in yards per attempt, would be scary. Just because, like Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay does such a great job of putting his players in a position to succeed, maximizing the quarterback position. Here's the thing, though. If the Niners were to trade Mac Jones to the Minnesota Vikings, Mac Jones would not go to Minnesota for only 1 year. The Vikings would be making that trade, wanting Mac Jones to be their quarterback for the next few years. I don't think that they would bring him in on a dead duck year. I think that they would try to sign him to a contract extension for a couple of reasons. You make a move, you're going to have to give up, I would say, at least a second-round pick for Mac Jones. You want to make good on that investment. Only having him for 1 year wouldn't be great. The other thing, too, let's say you trade for Mac Jones. You give him a contract that is similar to the Baker Mayfield deal or the Daniel Jones deal, where you pay him between $30 and $40 million. If he plays with Minnesota like he did with the Niners, that $30 million per year number would be a bargain for Minnesota. So I think if the Niners were to trade Mac Jones to another team, they'd want to lock him up on a multi-year deal. As far as Curtis Rourke goes, practice window opened last week. We'll see if he even gets elevated to the active roster. The Niners could just not do that, and it would be a redshirt year for him. He played all of last year at Indiana with a torn ACL. So he's tough. He can hang in the pocket, take hits, and deliver the football. He can layer throws and throw with some solid anticipation. Not that mobile, But we saw with Mac Jones, non-mobile quarterbacks can work in Kyle Shanahan's system, and I'm excited to see how Curtis Rourke can develop. Spunky Guy with the $2 super chat. No to Tua Tagovailoa as a backup quarterback option if the Niners were to trade Mac Jones. Too many concussions. And I agree with you. What? He's already had like 3 or 4 documented concussions, and that doesn't include potentially some concussions that we don't know about. I've worried, too, about the reaction that he's had physically after the concussions, where we've seen some scary moments on a football field. There are pluses and minuses to his game. And you look at his numbers this year, the problem for him, too many turnovers, 15 picks to only 20 touchdowns. In this system, he could play point guard, distribute the ball. He's accurate, and he's put up some really good production. The negatives, he's small, doesn't have that strong of an arm, and he's not that mobile. So when you pair all of that, and that's just talking about his game, not the health, but then you add the health component on top of that, I'm with you, Spunky Guy. If the Dolphins release Tua, I wouldn't really want the Niners to sign Tua. I also would wonder what Shanahan would think about a left-handed quarterback, because your route concepts, your play designs would have to change with a left-handed quarterback. Your running scheme would have to get altered a little bit. And for receivers, it's an adjustment because the spin of the ball is different. Different tail. A lot of receivers will tell you that. Boye, $2 super chat, or is it Boye T? Hopefully one of the 2 times I got it right. If the Niners traded Mac Jones, I'll take Daniel Jones. So I see what you're saying in theory, right? Trade away Mac Jones, who resurrected his career with Kyle Shanahan. Bring in Daniel Jones, who this year resurrected his career with another good offensive coach in Shane Steichen. Daniel Jones is not going to be ready for a little while. I mean, he tore his Achilles 2 games ago. So he's not going to be ready to start next year, I don't think. Plus, yes, he's going to be a free agent. Will the Colts just bring him back on a 1-year contract, considering how he looked playing for that Colts team and the fact that this quarterback class is somewhat thin this year in the NFL draft? I also wonder if this is an outlier year for Daniel Jones. There's also this, too. After the Colts got off to that white-hot start, he started to really, really tail off. Well-liked, good leader, respected by his teammates and his coaches. It was great to see him play well this year after playing for the dogshit Giants, but I don't think he's an option for San Francisco if they trade away Mac. Mamba Legend, do you think the Niners will be the number 1 seed and win in Santa Clara for Super Bowl 60? So we are recording this show on Thursday afternoon during our live program, just getting a video for the weekend when I'm not in the studio. And that's, of course, going into Thursday Night Football between the Rams and the Seahawks. Huge game in the NFC West. Both teams locked at 11-3. And so one of those records will change, obviously, for the Rams or the Seahawks. And even if there's a tie, those records will change. The Seahawks, if they win, move up to the number 1 spot. The Rams, if they win, stay in the number 1 spot. If the Rams win and the Seahawks lose and the Niners beat the Colts, San Francisco can move up from the 5 seed to the 6 seed. So that is some movement there. Do I think the Niners are going to get the number 1 seed? I don't. I just think there's too much that has to go right for the Niners. There's too many scenarios that have to magically work out for San Francisco. And I don't see those playing out for the Niners to get that number 1 seed. Excuse me. What a story it would be, though, right? I mean, the Niners wouldn't have to travel for the NFL playoffs if they got that number 1 seed. And if they made it to the Super Bowl, they could just continue to stay in the Bay Area. It would be absolutely incredible if that were to happen. And what, they would become, I think, the 3rd team to win a Super Bowl at their own stadium. Rams did it in 2021. Did the Bucks do it in 2020? I think they won in Raymond James, right? Yeah, so the Niners would become the 3rd team ever to do that. Black Mask, for real. Justin Fields as a Brock backup next year. No way. No way. I know that there was some chatter about Shanahan liking Justin Fields also in the pre-draft process going into 2021 alongside Mac Jones and Trey Lance. But Justin Fields can't throw a touch, can't throw with anticipation, cannot throw over the middle of the field, has no vision. Honestly, I think what Justin Fields should do, make the switch to running back. I think that he could be a really dynamic runner. He's not a quarterback in this league. And it's a little bit unfair to him that he got started with an awful Bears organization, and then he goes to the Jets, and the Jets are hapless as well. He's never got quality coaching since Ryan Day at Ohio State. And I like what Justin Fields did at Ohio State. But keep in mind, had Ryan Day, had some great skill players around him, but we've never seen that Justin Fields again. But man, that semifinal against Georgia, I believe, was incredible at the time. I just don't think that he's an NFL quarterback, unfortunately. And for Kyle Shanahan, he needs an accurate quarterback. He needs a quarterback to be able to see the field and anticipate. Justin Fields can't do any of those things. Great athlete, not a great quarterback, though. Let's get to our sponsor before we get back to more of your questions. Today's 49ers Report brought to you by PrizePicks. It's the holiday season, the best time of year for sports, bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which game to watch, there's one place where it feels good to be right. That place is PrizePicks. New feature alert, PrizePicks now has early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out of those winnings before the game even finishes. Is your fantasy season already over? Your team might be cooked, but with PrizePicks, you don't have to wait until next year's draft. PrizePicks lets you play fantasy football every week. Pick your favorite players and win when they hit their projections every week, no draft required. 3-pick power play for Sunday Night Football. Christian McCaffrey more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown. George Kittle more than 61 and a half receiving yards. And then Grandpa Phillip Rivers. PrizePicks has him looking like Joe Biden. More than 159 and a half passing yards. That's how you play. Get your picks in less than 60 seconds. Join the millions of users. Sign up today. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Allie or Ollie, is it a hot take to say the Niners should draft a safety in the first round? The Niners lack a proper lockdown safety, in my opinion. Is it a hot take? No. If a player like Caleb Downs is available at the end of the first round, obviously I think that'd be a difficult player to pass up on. He is the general of that Ohio State defense. He can play and make plays at all three levels. And I do think that the safety play for San Francisco has improved a little bit over the last couple of weeks with Jair Brown and Malik Mustafa, but I don't think they compare to the potential of a player like that. They are affordable. Jair will be going into the final year of his rookie contract next year. Malik Mustafa will be going into the third year of his 4-year rookie contract. They've shown some good moments. If the Niners want to stay cost efficient, they could elect to do that and run it back with that safety tandem. But if they go best player available, there's a great safety on the board. I don't think it's an overreaction. Now, I do think that offensive line is going to be a huge need. Trent Williams is playing elite, but he's 37. You don't have a left guard currently. You could upgrade at center. You're going to lose Brandon Ayuk. I think you need a wide receiver. Ricky Pearsall's always hurt. You don't know when Nick Bosa and Mykel Williams are going to come back. You'll need a pass rusher and a defensive end. So I think those are other bigger needs for San Francisco than safety. Richard Wagner, what are the chances of Saleh and Mac Jones going to the same team if Saleh ends up taking a head coaching job? I never thought about that, but it is really interesting to think about. And if you're Robert Saleh, you never got a good quarterback when you were with the New York Jets. Your defense has played pretty damn well, especially in 2022 and 2023. To start 2024, your defense is playing solid. You got fired, and they were awful after you. The one thing that Saleh never had was a quarterback. I mean, they make the move for Aaron Rodgers, pops his Achilles. Second year with Aaron Rodgers, gets fired in, October. So Saleh knows Mac. Saleh comes from the Kyle Shanahan tree. I don't think it would be that hard for Saleh to find an offensive coordinator to team up with Mac, who played well in the Shanahan system. It's not crazy. I actually like what you pointed out there. Should we trade Mac Jones and picks for Max Crosby? The Las Vegas Raiders, I think, do need a quarterback. I think Geno Smith stinks, and they did sign him to that big deal, but I don't think that should stop Las Vegas from trying to find their quarterback. I think what the Raiders instead do, they draft a quarterback. They're going to be in a position to get a top 3 pick in the NFL draft. Next week, Giants-Raiders is going to be a huge game for draft positioning. And this quarterback class might be thin. Headlined by Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore. Outside of that, little sketchy. So it really depends on which quarterbacks declare for the draft, which quarterbacks go back to school. But I think the Raiders, ideally, would draft the quarterback so that quarterback is under that rookie contract throughout the duration of that rookie contract. And they'd be much more affordable than a player like Mac Jones, who you'd probably have to sign to a contract extension. The other thing with Max Crosby, it would take multiple ones to get him. It's one of the best players in football right now. Jarhead, when are we thinking Yetur Gross-Matos will be back in the lineup? Maybe as soon as Monday night. But he's always been hurt since signing with the Niners. So I really don't know. Practice window is opened. It was opened last week. He's questionable as of this recording, but we will see. He could really help out this Niners pass rush from defensive tackle and defensive end, the highest graded pass rusher on this Niners team. Ricardo Raygoza. Why would they let Sebastian Valdez dress the season and didn't let him play? Okay, so Shanahan actually talked about that this week. They wanted to reward him for his hard work on the practice squad, elevate him from the practice squad to the active game day roster for all of his hard work so that he could get an NFL game check, not just a practice squad game check. Now, I'd love to see him in action, but I think the Niners are playing the developmental role here, and they want to develop him for next year. But the Hulk certainly had a good training camp, had a good preseason, and I do think that he can become a player for this football team. Yoshi tuned in from Japan. Chase Sr., will Eric Kendricks play against the Colts? The Niners linebackers missed too many tackles against the Titans. Yes, they did, and that's led to the run defense being bad. What is Eric Kendricks really good at? Being a run defender. He's had more than 100 tackles in 9 straight years. What does he not do? Miss tackles. What can you not do against Indy? Be bad against the run. Jonathan Taylor is averaging more than 5 yards per carry. They're going to run him into the ground, especially with Phillip Rivers. So I hope that Eric Kendricks can play coming off that calf injury. Who you got? Niners, Colts, type SF for San Francisco, IND for Indianapolis. Get those predictions in for Monday night. All right, good stuff, everybody. We are about to sign off. I will be live tonight. NFC West rivalry game, Thursday Night Football between the Rams and the Seahawks. I hope to see all of you there. Hopefully we can get some big-time super chats going as well. Chua, you missed my comment. Chua, we appreciate you, man. Sorry we didn't get to it. All right, for Chip, I am Chase. Thanks for watching and supporting the show, and we will catch you soon. San Francisco, we out.